Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's the Expat Stacker coming to you today with some shocking news from financial markets. It should be shocking, but honestly, it's really not. Silver Conundrum and I had been talking about this, and he recently did a very good video where he details the news about JP Morgan having to pay a $920 million fine for manipulating the metals markets, for keeping especially silver artificially low. Many of us knew that this was going on for a very long time, but it kind of just now came out. And first of all, why did this even come out? Well, in case you're not aware, it's because of a leak of files from, they're called FinCEN files, which exposed more than $2 trillion in suspicious transaction activity in worldwide finance. It's not just JP Morgan, it's HSBC, Deutsche Bank, and so many others. FinCEN stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and some of the documents there were leaked. And that's the only reason that this even came out in the first place, that JP Morgan is even having to pay this fine. Because like I said, everybody knew that this manipulation was going on. And honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if the regulatory agencies who are supposed to be, enforcing the rules were in on this, or, whatever. They obviously couldn't do their job, because if regular people like you and I know that it's going on, and the regulatory agencies can't do anything about it for years, for decades, then it begs the question, why not? Now, let's get into, a little broader discussion about this, because I want you guys to understand that this is not a, one-time instance. That's why I say in the beginning, it should be shocking, but it's not. This is par for the course. Silver Conundrum talked about it in his video, and I'm going to talk about it in my video as well here. They're having to pay, JP Morgan is having to pay $920 million fine for this, and basically the charges will be dropped against them. They say that there are other penalties, but honestly, as Silver Conundrum pointed out, this is just a cost of doing business for them, because they profited probably 10x that amount. Now, who is this $920 million for manipulating the bond markets and the metal markets going to? Is it going to regular people like you and I, who maybe could have lost out on our trades at the time? No, it's not. Where's it going? I have no freaking idea, but I can guarantee you it's not going to individuals who are probably the most disproportionately affected by this manipulation, this illegal behavior that if you or I ever engaged in, would be in jail for the rest of our lives. But JP Morgan is just a cost of doing business. They came out the other end. There's no jail time. They profited massively off of this. And as I said, it's not just the bond markets or the metal markets. Look at what's going on. This is their business model. I have another very recent example for you. JP Morgan is short selling a Korean pharmaceutical company, one of the largest Korean pharmaceutical companies, called Celltrion, which is up and coming, frankly, internationally. They just did an M&A with Takeda, which is a huge pharmaceutical company out of Japan. Celltrion is on the verge. They're in phase 3 clinical trials for COVID-19 treatment, and their stock has been gaining massively over this. JP Morgan had been short selling them, and then they just gave Celltrion this massive downgrade to underweight, and said that their stock price would be, worth like maybe about half of what it was almost worth. Why'd they do that? Because they were short selling this company and they wanted to make a profit. Because obviously, if Celltrion develops a treatment, an effective treatment for this global pandemic, what do you think is going to happen to their share prices? They're going to skyrocket. Obviously, they're going to go to the moon, right? So JP Morgan, instead of these people at JP Morgan and HSBC and Deutsche Bank and all of these hedge funds, they claim to be the most advanced and intelligent investors in the world. They claim to be for free markets, but what are they doing here? They're manipulating markets, they're breaking the rules, they're paying off the regulators, and they're intentionally, because they placed a bad bet on one company, they can't take wins and losses. No, they always have to win, right? So they are attacking Celltrion, downgrading them, giving them a heavy downgrade, and the stock price of Celltrion plummeted, and it's continuing to go down. This is a company that is trying to help people all around the world, not just help people for their health and their well-being and to stop this pandemic, but also to help the global economy open back up. Wouldn't JP Morgan, a global bank that reports to be for capitalism and free markets and competition, wouldn't they be for that? No, they're not for that. They just only care about themselves. They don't care if they have to break the rules or manipulate or lie or do whatever. So they downgraded this company, which and here's the reason why you can kind of tell that this is manipulation, is because for other Korean pharmaceutical companies, they have them marked up at a higher percentage, but none of them are as close as Celltrion to developing a treatment for COVID. So I bring up this example to show you that this is just another recent example of JP Morgan's manipulation, breaking the rules. They do not care about the rules, whatever. If they get caught, if they get punished, because Celltrion is talking about taking legal action against JP Morgan, they'll just pay a fine and it doesn't matter because they already, made money off of their shorts. So let's get back to this whole FinCEN situation with these documents that got leaked. Actually back several years ago, HSBC was in a lot of hot water. They got a huge fine because they allowed Mexican drug cartels to launder money, as well as Al-Qaeda. Okay, this is ridiculous because HSBC is this big, huge global bank, and drug cartels and a terrorist organization are what U.S. taxpayers pay to fight against, right? We're supposed to be against this, but HSBC is helping these organizations. Why? Because they bet on both sides of the horse race. They rig the game so that they make money. Just like I showed you with this JP Morgan example, where they probably took a huge leveraged bet against Celltrion. They have these billionaires, family offices participating in these, gambling bets, and they can't take it when they lose. They expect you and I to bail them out, even though, as I said, they purport to be the most advanced investors. But no, they can't take it when they lose. So it's not even betting. It's socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for everybody else, right? They're the rule makers and we're the rule takers, and by that I mean they make the rules, and then when the rules don't quite benefit them, they change the rules. But we're the rule takers, so if we break their rules, then the rule of law comes down hard on us, but not on them. So let's get back to this HSBC example. So I mentioned that they got in hot water for, it came out that they're laundering money for drug cartels and Al-Qaeda, and recently, as a result of these FinCEN leaks, these FinCEN files, once again, HSBC is in hot water for a Ponzi scheme. And you know what? When this Ponzi scheme started, it started right after the files show the investment scam, this most recent scam, started after the bank was fined $1.9 billion in the US over money laundering. It promised to clamp down on these sorts of practices. That's what they're talking about here. They've done this numerous times, and they always say, "Oh, I won't do it again. I won't do it again. I won't do it again." Let me ask you a question. If I robbed a bank, right, And let's say I had a really good lawyer and all these excuses. Oh, I won't do it again. And I pay a little fine, but I got to keep all the money I robbed from the bank, right? And then somehow I get this light sentence. I just have to pay a fine and then whatever. And then I go and do the same thing again a couple of years later. What do you think would happen to me? Even if I got ridiculously lucky the first time around, which almost never happens, right? What do you think would happen to me the second time around? Do you think that they would say, "Oh, well, okay, well, you said you were not going to do it again. This is your second time doing it, but just pay a fine again, and then, okay, we'll call it a day. We'll call it even. We'll trust you." No. So my question is, by the way, I do have to tell you that there are two Supreme Court rulings in the United States which heavily affect political speech. One of them you may have heard of many times, which is Citizens United versus the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. I believe that's what it is. And then another one is Buckley v. Vallejo. And basically what those two rulings say is that corporations are people and money equals free speech. So if corporations are people, like these banks are corporations, right? Why aren't they being punished the same way that individual people like you and I get punished? Why? Because as I said, there are rule makers and there are rule takers. Okay? Let me give you another example. These banks that I've been talking about so far, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, HSBC, these are like global investment banks, hedge funds. What about Wells Fargo? This is also an investment bank, but also a commercial bank because they're allowed to be one and the same after Glass-Steagall was repealed. Wells Fargo has been hit with record fines in the past. $1 billion, a record fine. Wow, it's so big. But guess what, guys? They made more than that in profits in a single quarter. The same quarter that they had to pay this $1 billion fine. They made more than that in a single quarter in profits. I'm not talking about revenue here. I'm talking about profits. So once again, the cost of doing business. Okay, if you think about expenses when you're running a business, if I'm running a lemonade stand, my time, the lemons, the water, the cups, those are all costs of doing business. But I'll continue doing it because I sell the lemonade to people at a profit, right? If it costs me 50 cents to make the lemonade and I sell it for $1, my profit is 50 cents. Wells Fargo, HSBC, JP Morgan, all these banks, they are going to continue to commit these crimes as long as they are not punished. So $1 billion, $920 million, I don't really care what the dollar amount is. We need people in jail, in prison. We need real punishment. This is not enough. That is why they continue doing it. In the rule of law, there are punishments, but if the punishment isn't enough to dissuade the criminal from continuing to do the crime, then you need a stronger punishment. Okay, if you go to JP Morgan's website, you can find all kinds of documents which talk about how highly leveraged some of their investment vehicles are. We're talking about 13x, 14x leveraged vehicles. They cannot afford to lose on a bet like that. So what do? They cheat, and then if they get caught, they pay the fine. They still profited because it's 14x leveraged. And we're talking billions of dollars here, because these scams, if you read these articles, I'm not going through to read each and every single one of them, but these scams go on for years, decades. And that's what I say. What are these regulatory agencies doing about it? Nothing. So let me now bring this in. I think I've made my point that these banks are nothing but crooks. They don't play by the rules. They never will, because they're not being punished. And this is just the cost of them doing business. So I've made the point. Now what do I want to say? Okay, let's bring this back around to something constructive. Until the day when citizens say enough is enough, we are not going to do anything. We're not going to shop at any business or anybody. We're just gonna boycott these companies. We're gonna protest. We're gonna resist day in, day out until these people are brought to justice and some major changes occur. Until that day comes, there's nothing we can do about it. We're basically powerless as individuals, except for one thing. Okay? One thing. You individually do not have to give these people your business, and you can protect yourself with hard assets. And by that, I'm talking, of course, about gold, silver, platinum, palladium, copper, real money. All right, folks. I'm telling you this because I want to help you. Whenever I make a video like this, I notice that my YouTube algorithm just, traffic stops flowing to my channel. All of a sudden, I stop getting new subscribers. But I don't really care because I want to help you guys. All right. I don't want you guys who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to be honest and participate in this system that's been built. Right? You're trying to follow the rules. You're trying to take the rules and live in a civilized society and provide for yourself and for your family and for the next generation. You're trying to do that. But what is the incentive to do that when again and again and again and again and again, these rich and powerful people who are in the big club, right, that you're not a part of, what is the incentive for you to continue following the rules after a while? When you pay taxes and you find out that the banks are helping launder money for the people that we're supposed to be fighting against, the drug cartels, the terrorists, and so on. Why would you continue to participate in a system like that? Why would you continue to participate in a system where you pay taxes, you don't get health care? American infrastructure is crumbling. Education is not improving. Okay, what are we paying taxes for then? Taxes are supposed to be for public goods and services, but everything is falling apart. There's no security or safety in the streets even anymore. So why am I telling you this? It's not to be, all the doom and gloom, but I want to tell you that there is a way that you can protect your financial security and safety and stability of your family, and that is through precious metals. I am an advocate of having a diversified portfolio, so I'm not saying that precious metals are the only thing. There are many different asset classes, and I encourage you, I've made videos about that. It's a topic for another video. You can look around my channel if you want to about those things. I have a couple of videos called stocks versus gold. You can check those out. I'll probably make more videos soon in the future about this topic. But for thousands of years, gold and silver have been real money, and it will continue. All right. Silver Game of Thrones recently did a very interesting video of talking about digital currencies and how it's, they always test these things on a small scale and they scale it up. And Bahamas right now in Silver Game of Thrones video, but he talks about how Bahamas is the first country to have a national digital currency, like a national cryptocurrency sort of thing. They're trying it out there because the Bahamas and, all of those islands, those in the Caribbeans and that whole area is safe havens, financial safe havens for the rich and powerful. So they're playing around in their playground right now, and soon they're going to scale it up. I could see it next going to a country like Ireland, for example. A mid-scale market, not a super heavy, major country, but significant, and then from there it continues to scale up and spread. So if they don't like you or whatever, for whatever reason they just want to cut you off, then they can, if you have this digital currency, right? But guys, gold and silver will never stop being money, and this is a way that you can protect yourself. Even when JP Morgan is manipulating the metals markets, it's still a way to protect you. Nothing is 100% safe, right? But still, it's still better than the other types of financial assets that you could have. It's still safer, it's still more secure, in my opinion. Okay, this is just my opinion, of course. And yes, I do own stocks and I have other types of investments other than just precious metals, but I'm saying that I believe that precious metals are the one thing that you can do to the best thing that you can do to safeguard yourself against this type of illegal, despicable behavior. These banks and all the people at the top who are pulling the levers, they have just insatiable greed. Their rapacious greed is the reason why they continue to do this over and over and over again at literally the cost of people's health. I give you the Celtrion example, right? They're directly trying to actively hurt a company that is trying to help people with medicine in the free market, right? They're directly going against that company and making it more difficult for them to do that, and making it more difficult for the global economy to open up, all because they only care about their own trades and gambling and bets, and all because they're too highly leveraged and they're too highly connected to all the people at the top. So guys, it makes me very upset. I consider myself to be a pretty laid back person, but look, when you have a two-tier justice system, that's unsustainable, and you cannot expect security or safety or for that system to go on for very long. Okay, I'm tired of these reckless, greedy people who are all part of this big club that we're not a part of, sicking us on each other with these fake political parties and these fake politicians and red versus blue. Guys, look, listen, all right? Before you jump onto Team Red or Team Blue, let me just ask you something. Did Bush or Clinton or Obama or Trump ever do anything about the Federal Reserve? Did they do anything about the Federal Reserve? Are they going to do anything about the Federal Reserve? No, they're not. They're not going to do anything about these private banks, these hedge funds, these billionaires who control everything. They're not going to do anything about it. Neither is Joe Biden. So what's the difference at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, guys, it's all about money. All right? That's what it's all about. So look, guys, I just want to say, before you jump onto one of these teams, just think about that for a minute, okay? Just think about it. The Iraq War, the financial crisis of 2008, what happened there? Who got bailed out there? Who bailed out who there and why? You know? If you don't know the answer to that, well, you should start looking for it, because it's out there. Even the people who profited from it will acknowledge who bailed out who in that situation. All right? So, guys, markets are not free. Okay, the people who claim to be the smartest and the best are not. They're misleading you, misguiding you. They're breaking the rules and then setting new rules and paying a little bit of money to get out of trouble, get out of jail free. We don't get that. You do anything, you even think about doing something like this, and you're going to get crushed. All right? And you might get crushed anyway, even if you just try to trust these people with your money. But don't trust them with your hard-earned money. There's only one real form of money, and that's what this whole video is about. I know, I'm sorry, I'm ranting all over the place, but this is just very frustrating to me, because I can't stand it that they call themselves people. Well, corporations are people, but then they don't get punished like people. There's two sets of rules. They break the rules. They manipulate markets. Everybody who had to sell metals in the time that JP Morgan was manipulating these metal markets lost because of that manipulation. And JP Morgan is having to, basically say sorry and not give back any of the money and not help any of the individual people that they ripped off intentionally on purpose by manipulating these markets. And it's going to continue, as I have demonstrated by showing you all of these articles. HSBC paid a $1.9 billion fine, and then started a new Ponzi scheme. They probably had it lined up before they even finished paying the last fine. They probably, I bet you that's how they do business. They have one scheme and one scam, and they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until they get caught. And then once they get caught, they pay the fine, and the next scheme that they got, plan B, that one's up, and then they make a new one. I bet you that's how they do it, man. Anyways, guys, you know, I'm sorry. It's very frustrating to see this, and it's also frustrating to see how they, you know, use the media to sick you and I on each other. You know, oh, you like Trump, oh well, you're a racist. Oh, you like Joe Biden, oh, you're a communist. Whatever, man. It's a bunch of bullcrap. Don't fall for it, okay? You're an individual, you're an adult, you can think for yourself. You can say what you agree with, you can say what you don't agree with. I don't even agree with myself from a year ago, okay? But that doesn't mean I hate myself from a year ago, and I'm not going to hate any of you if you disagree with me about one or two things politically. All right? If there's somebody that I disagree with that much, then I just won't associate with that person. But I don't hate anyone. I'm not going after anyone. I'm not trying to antagonize anyone. I think that, of course, we all have differences. We should find the areas where we agree and work together on that. Okay, because that is how you live in a civilized society. And if you ask me, it should start with making these bankers who are breaking these rules and getting away with murder to start paying some justice, because right now what they're doing is not enough. All right, $920 million. No, that's not enough when these brokerages have billions and billions of dollars. It's not enough. So guys, I hope that you understood what I'm saying. I appreciate you if you're still listening to the end of this rant. I'm sorry, because I am usually a peaceful and laid back guy, but this kind of thing really gets my blood boiling, right? They're destroying our society with this type of behavior and with the lack of actual punishment. So anyways, guys, this is Expat Stacker. I'll catch you on the flip side.